Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1 on this here channel. I should preface this by saying that ETCG1 is not a channel where I repair vehicles. We just talk about stuff related to repair and things automotive in general. So welcome to the show. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about selling a used car. It was highly popular, the last video that I did about buying a used car. So there was some comments, some questions about what about selling a used car, Eric? So why don't we talk a little bit about selling a used vehicle? Say for instance you find yourself in a place to where you are ready to part with whatever it is that you're driving, what have you. And you are looking to move it along, to get it on down the pasture, and you want to get as much money for it as you possibly can. So you're gonna stick to your guns and sell it for whatever set price that you set out to have. You have, I would say, two major options. Maybe I'll come up with a third. For a second there, I thought there was a third option, but you've got two major options in this situation. One is that you can sell the vehicle outright yourself. You put an ad in the paper, what have you. You field all the phone calls. You meet with all the people that want to come out and see it, and you sell the vehicle. Or you can trade it in. So you drive up to whatever car lot, used car lot or new car lot, and you trade in your old to get new. And I'm trying to think of a third. Oh, maybe a third could be you barter it for something else. So you might trade it for something. I actually had a guy tell me one time, it was a 1980 something Ford Fiesta. He said, "I'll tell you what, 75 bucks or I'll trade you a shotgun." I didn't have a shotgun, so I gave him the 75 bucks. But there's all kinds of ways to go about this, I suppose. But those are the two main ones that come to mind. And depending upon which road you want to follow, there's going to be different things that you're going to want to address. Why don't we start with trading it in? If you're going to trade a vehicle in, don't do anything to it. Do absolutely nothing to it. Invest nothing into it. Drive it up, because a trade-in is basically a way for a new or a used car lot to sell you a new car. They will give you whatever trade-in value, or maybe there's a situation where they have like a set trade-in. Doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter if you push it in, blah blah blah, whatever. We're going to give you 1,500 bucks on the purchase of the vehicle. Well, of course, that cost, that discount that they're offering you is already built into the cost of the vehicle that they're selling you. So the idea of the dealership is to make a profit. Don't fault them for that, because that's what they do, okay? And they want to do it in any way they can. And obviously you want to spend as little money as possible, and you don't want to get taken. That's the thing. We discussed buying a used car in the last segment, so we're not going to get into that here. We're going to get into the selling part. But especially if you have an older vehicle, like say, more than 5 years old, we'll say, is an older vehicle. Just to throw that out there. I realize that there's plenty of useful life left in many vehicles that are more than 5 years old, but I'm just going to look at this from a sales standpoint. If it's older than 5 years and you're trading it in, it's probably never going to make it to the lot as far as that new car lot or even used car lot. A lot of new cars have like used cars that are there, things that have been traded in. And what they'll do with that car several times is they'll just wholesale it. And what I mean by wholesaling it is they'll send it off to auction. And at the auction, the car will sell for whatever, or they'll have a series of cars, many cars most likely, that they're selling off. They'll recoup their losses from that and move on. And so those cars will never see the light of day. Cars that are 5 years old or newer, maybe they'll do an inspection on it. Maybe they'll turn around and sell it themselves for a profit. It's hard to say. But either way, any investment you make into the vehicle, like say for instance you're having a mechanical issue, like maybe the transmission's starting to go or something like that, if you invest in that before you trade it in, you're not doing yourself any favors. Leave it to the car lot to deal with. Leave it for them. Just walk away from whatever it is. If they're willing to offer you, $5,000 for that Honda Odyssey with a bad transmission, if they're willing to do that, more power to them. Just let them have it and get into whatever it is that you're going to get into. If you are selling to a private owner, that's a different story altogether. There's going to be certain expectations for that vehicle, and being underhanded, like, and not disclosing the fact that the transmission is starting to fail on the vehicle, or it needs major engine work, and that's the reason why you're selling it. Disclose that information to that person. Don't try and take somebody and sell them something that's not up to speed. Without the disclosure of letting them know, look, if you're going to buy this vehicle, well, the transmission's about to go, or you're going to buy this vehicle and the timing belt's due, or you're going to buy this vehicle and they told me I needed tires, brakes, suspension, and everything on it. So this is what I'm selling it for. Now I guess we have to get to the point of this discussion about value and how you put a value on your vehicle. My experience is that most people value their vehicles more than what they're actually worth, mainly because of sentimental reasons. And I'm not saying sentimental's not worth something, but it's only worth something to you. It's not worth something to the person that you're selling it to. So keep that in mind. I mean, you may be attached to the vehicle, maybe think it's the greatest thing ever. Them maybe not so much. Aftermarket modifications. If you've modified your car in any way, cold air intake, lowering springs, bigger wheels, stereo, my opinion, you hacked up the car. It's worthless. In my opinion, those cars are worthless. Unless you find a like-minded individual to take that off of your hands, you're never going to see that money back. In fact, you're probably going to take a loss on it. I mean, I'm not saying don't have fun with your car, because, come on, that's what we do. But what I'm saying is as far as your expectations of, I invested, $3,000 in performance upgrades to my vehicle, it should be worth that on the open market. Not true. Not true at all. In fact, in my experience, a lot of those modifications are rarely done properly. And if they are done properly, those people usually aren't selling. And if they are selling, they're selling to somebody at the track, whatever, somebody that they know that knows the vehicle and knows their work. That's a different kind of story. But for the most part, the DIYer who's doing performance modifications is devaluing that vehicle, no matter how you lay it out. Also, paint jobs. That paint job that you put on there with the cool flames or graphics or whatever you're putting on the thing may be awesome for you, but it's not awesome for the open market at all. You devalue the vehicle when you do these things to it. The more original and untouched and unmolested the vehicle, the more it's worth. It doesn't matter if you put $5,000 worth of whatever in there. If that's the case, take the $5,000 worth of whatever's out of there, put your original parts back on, eBay the stuff that you put on the car, and you'll probably be better off. That's just my opinion. But don't think just because you spent thousands of dollars on upgrades that you're actually going to see a return on that investment, because it's just the opposite is true. Setting your price. Setting your price is going to be probably the most difficult part of it. Now, I actually have an iPhone app, Kelley Blue Book, and you might look that up. I'm sure it's for Android and other smartphone devices, that kind of thing. And if it's not available to you that way, if you're watching this program, you have a computer. You can probably look up the value of your vehicle. Now, be realistic in your assessment. Blue Book lists things by fair, good, and I can't remember what the other two, but in other words, they have like a good condition, a fair condition, and a poor condition. So and each one of those comes with a different price listing to it. Be realistic, and in fact, underestimate is what I would do as far as the value of your vehicle. Now, this is what I do. I set myself a price. Say I was going to sell that Odyssey behind me. I think Odysseys right now, that's a 2001. Obviously, everybody knows they have transmission issues, but the engine is solid, suspension is solid, tires are solid. The rest of the vehicle is pretty well solid. So I get the thing fixed up, transmission's fixed, tires are decent, everything else. There's really nothing mechanically wrong with that vehicle. I would say these days, in 2001, maybe at top of the mark, maybe like $3,500, maybe. I'm thinking probably more realistic, around $3,000. So this is what I'll do. I'll add like maybe 20%. I'll maybe ask like 32 or something like that. Leave yourself a little bit of breathing room in your initial price. And that will help with negotiation. So in other words, like ask a little bit more, not a lot. Don't be like, way off the mark. Don't add like $1,000 onto it, because then you're not going to get people interested in the vehicle, because these people are probably know the value of the vehicle. They probably looked up the Kelley Blue Book or what have you, and they're smart shoppers, so to speak. So they have an idea of what the vehicle's worth, and they definitely know what they're going to pay. When it comes to setting your price, I would say a good round figure is to add like about 20% onto your asking price, onto your bottom dollar. Figure out what your bottom dollar is, and then add 20% onto that. That way you've got some negotiating room. You got a little room to work with. Some of you might go a little bit more than that, but the idea is to sell the vehicle. If you overprice the vehicle, you're not going to get a lot of phone calls. You want a lot of people coming through. That way somebody comes in, they look at it, they say, well, I've got a couple other things that I'm looking at. I'm going to come back. You can say, okay, fine, but I've got 2 other people looking at it today. That creates a certain urgency. And that urgency may translate to a sale. And that's on the person buying the car. So right now we're talking about selling the car. So I'm trying to be your advocate in that sense right now. So don't be afraid to let people walk away. There will be somebody else. And if there isn't somebody else, look at your price and ask yourself, are you being realistic? If you're not being realistic, then reevaluate your pricing and then perhaps relist or something. But don't do this. Don't let them, the person that's coming to look at the car, don't discount it before they actually look at it and drive it or anything. Don't discount it then. Wait until you're negotiating. Remember, start high and work your way to your comfortable zone of what you need to get back on your investment in the vehicle. It's kind of a dance, and I can't really teach you that here. And I'm not going to say that I'm an expert at this, but these are just rules that I've followed along the way that seem to work. In fact, I usually end up buying more cars than I sell. That's a whole other video. What I'm trying to do here is just to give you a general outline of, if you are in a position to where you need to sell a vehicle, that you can sell a vehicle. And now, advertising. There are lots of places that you can go, Craigslist being one of them. I'm going to say that if you are going to sell a car on a Craigslist, if you're going to sell the car for more than $2,000, don't bother posting it on Craigslist. The people that are looking on Craigslist are looking for vehicles $2,000 and cheaper. They're not looking for other cars. They're just looking for a car. So if you're going to be charging more than $2,000, I would suggest you stay away from Craigslist because I don't think you're going to do very well. Sub $2,000, your phone will probably ring off the hook. But above $2,000, I don't think you're going to get it. Then there's like the auto trading magazines that you can list your vehicle in. Once again, take a realistic look at the vehicle, its condition, and full disclosure. Once again, full disclosure. I mean, if it's going to need a transmission, take that into account. Discount the price accordingly and let the buyers know that. Because the last thing you want is a situation where you sell somebody a car and they're upset because something failed shortly after they purchased it. They're going to feel taken. Don't let them walk away feeling taken. You're much better with full disclosure, telling them straight out, look, this transmission's junk. You're going to need to put a transmission in it. You're going to need to figure that into the cost of the vehicle when you buy it. That way, you're off the hook. If the transmission goes out next week, well, there you go. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the legal ramifications of selling somebody a car and what happens if they come back unhappy, that kind of thing. I'm going to leave that for another video or something. I'm just honestly, I don't want to go there. But just general tips on selling a vehicle, that's what I'm about in this video. And then of course, if you're trading it in, you don't need to advertise it. You just trade it in. But as far as trading it in and the transmission's going bad or whatever, you can disclose that. I'm not saying don't disclose that because like I said, especially if it's more than 5 years old, it's likely that car will never see the lot anyway, and they'll just turn around and auction it off, and that's that. And then they're done with it. Mostly they're looking, like I said, to get you into a new car, making payments, and putting a little bit of money in that salesman's pocket because, come on, let's face it, that's how they feed their kids. Don't fault them for it. It's just how they feed their kids. Some people are good at it, some people are not so good at it. But I've known a few salesmen in my day. I can't say I've been happy with all of them, but I understand that they are doing a job. And as long as they're above board, I'm okay with it. I hope these tips and information that I've conveyed in this video was useful to you. I look forward to your comments and your contributions about this. In fact, I post a link in the description to a forum discussion about this video, as I often do, always do, with ETCG1 videos. Oh, hang on a minute. Before I close this out, I have one glaring omission, and that is appearance. When you go to sell a vehicle, make sure you wash it, clean it up, detail it, make it look good. Pride of ownership is something that I talked about in the buying a used car video, but it also applies to selling a used car. So if you're on the selling end, it's a really good idea to go through that car, wash it up, make it look good, because honestly, most people buy vehicles based on appearance. So I didn't want to leave this video hanging without putting that in there, because I know that a lot of people would be mentioning that. So now back to Eric the Car Guy, who's about to close this video out. If you have automotive questions, I would ask that you head over to ericthecarguy.com and type in a couple of keywords into the search function at the top of the page. If you don't get an answer there, feel free to sign up for our forum. It's absolutely free. just be sure to respond to the confirmation email that you will need to click on in order to complete your registration. If not, you'll have problems registering. If you wish to connect with me socially, you can find me on Google+, Facebook, and Twitter, and I close each and every video with, be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Full disclosure, people. Full disclosure.